Mucho gusto, encantado.
That's okay. It's over there. Yeah, that looks like a mic, but it's that'll work. It looks like a microphone. It's like so. Let's put that because we have to. Yeah, we don't want no.
¿El tuyo funciona?
Estaba funcionando cuando lo
sí, yo también. Hay que ponerlo por alguna parte. ¿Hablas de qué? Arqueología. Ok. Medicina. Nuclear. Medicina nuclear. Sí. Al Sydney, a la Universidad de Sydney, al Hospital de North Sydney, a la Universidad de Wollongong, a la Universidad de Melbourne, ¿cómo se llama la nueva? Swinburne University.
¿Cómo está?
Okay. No, al comienzo hicimos el tema que vamos a hablar. Ahora solamente estoy como consultante.
Pero se tiene que ir porque si no va a pasar por delante de las cámaras. Sofía.
Yo tengo un poco más de tiempo ahora.
Hello. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Hello to everybody. Good evening to those who are here with us in Australia. Good morning to those who are elsewhere, Spain. This is it is an honor for me as Director of Instituto Cervantes Sydney to open once again a conference being held here in our premises, Instituto Cervantes here in Sydney, CBD, along with our colleagues and friends from SRAP, our scientists here, Spanish scientists in Australia, once again to celebrate the National Week of Science here in Australia. This is the third conference we have organized together during this week. The two conferences that have been held previously were online. The first conference on August 16th, online stargazing. The second conference yesterday, August 17th, online regarding the nuclear energy. And this is the third and last conference, a hybrid conference here in our premises in Sydney, but also being streaming live in our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. Once again, I have to say it is an incredible honor to be here with the representatives of SRAP and with all of the researchers that are that have been invited to show us their science in each and every specific area, and to be part of it as Instituto Cervantes of Sydney. Once again, Instituto Cervantes of Sydney, along with all the Instituto Cervantes around the world, have, among other duties, the need to promote science in Spanish or science of Spanish, especially after the signature of the agreement by the former Minister of Science, along with the General Director of Instituto Cervantes in headquarters in Madrid. So here we are now in Instituto Cervantes in Sydney to promote once again collaboration with our fellow researchers, with SRAP, in order to promote science and to make it accessible worldwide. Without further ado, I would like to present our colleague, friend, the president of SRAP, Angel Lopez, and we are once again putting in place a conference along with SRAP.
Thank you very much, Coral, for this wonderful introduction and presentation. And thank you all of you for being here and also being online. And of course, thank you to our wonderful speakers that we are really eager to listen to you. So that is not me to be actually talking, although I would like to mention a couple of things about SRAP, the Spanish researchers in Australia Pacific, in order that all of you can understand much better what we do. So if Gonzalo, it doesn't work. Okay. Well, SRAP, the Spanish Researchers in Australia Pacific, it is an independent and non-profit organization without any political affiliation and created by and for researchers and science workers in all branches of science, culture, and art. That is a representation of the members that we have in SRAP, for example. We have several objectives and some few statistics in this slide. The objectives mainly it is promoting and facilitating the collaboration and networking of Spanish researchers working in Australia Pacific. Also disseminating the research and assisting them to develop their professional career in Australia Pacific. That is again something that we are doing here this evening. Advising Australian Pacific Universities, research centers about the Spanish academic system, promoted the academic, industrial and cultural interchange with Spain, something else that we are also promoting thanks to the collaboration of the Instituto Cervantes, and participating in the Spanish research system as part of the ISEX, which is the network of association of the Spanish researchers working abroad, helping to improve the conditions of Spanish researchers and the researchers to obtain the social recognition that they deserve. And for achieving that, we actually have plenty of activities, so many that I don't have time for summarizing them here. We have from visit to school and students, we have events that we organize for members, for something very diverse amount of people connecting together in different kind of activities. For example, at a snorkel event that we did a year or so ago, or the visit to the Silent Spring Observatory, staying actually there in the observatory for a full night observing. And of course, our forum, the research forum, that the last one that we organized in November last year, it was a collaborative world, our 7th forum. This year we're organizing a digital world that will be again at Macquarie University on the 25th of November this year. Stay tuned for the information about that. And definitely all these science communication events like the one that we are performing today, in which we are just we are giving the opportunity to our members, SRAP members, to talk about the research that they do, that what they're doing, what is they are passionate about. That is another example of one of the events that we have for National Science Week in collaboration with Instituto Cervantes last year, Plastic in the Oceans. Today, what we have, it is an excellent group of people, of 5 speakers that are going to talk about very different topics, from galaxies to ancient cultures and diversity, the impact of the COVID-19 in biodiversity, the game theory, the madness at first sight, and nuclear medicine and surgery. Without any further ado, I think I'm going to let the first speaker to start. Is my colleague and my very good friend, Cristina Martínez Lombilla, I couldn't remember the second name, who is a postdoctoral research associate at the University of New South Wales and also a SRAP member. Thank you. All yours.
Okay, so can you hear me? So you can hear me the page as well? Okay. Especially the turn a bit the lights off, because I have some nice galaxy images. It's so much light is like so just in case that is okay. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Cristina Martínez Lombilla. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of New South Wales here in Sydney. I come originally from Spain. That's why I'm a Spanish researcher in Australia, and I'm part of SRAP. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do in my daily life, but from every point. The talk is going to be split. The talk has like 3 different parts. The first topic is a bit of how I became an astrophysicist, which is basically a very common path for every academic or every scientific research. So you can know a bit about how we got here. Because I think that it's very popular. So in talks with kids or with parents that have kids and they doesn't know how to be a scientist for how. Also, what do we do as astronomers in our life, and a bit of what I actually do in my research. We can guess a bit because of the image, but let's see. So first, how I become an astrophysicist. This is basically the general idea and the general path for every people who works in science or every academic. It's a bachelor. Here in Australia, it's a bachelor. In Spain, it was a licenciatura in physics. Then this can be also mathematical computer science engineering. Then I did a master to be more focused on astrophysics. In the case, I did observational and instrumentation focus specialized master. People that goes with theory in the case of astrophysics, they don't develop more like theoretical predictions, or they make simulation, computer simulations on how the galaxies are born, how they form, how even the whole universe will form. And after that, what I did was a PhD in a research PhD, working on galaxy formation and evolution. In the middle, actually, I took a break because I was working at the Taylor Observatory in Tenerife as the operator. We also realized that the astrophysics gives you also the opportunity to have like another voice to the pure research path. And then after the PhD, I did all this stuff in Tenerife, in Maternal Islands, and then I came to Australia to start my postdoc here in Sydney a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, 3 weeks before, to be precise. So, as I said, in astrophysics, you will have also the opportunity to have different roles, like being more in the technical careers, audit, there are many people that focus on audits, which is great. Also staff for the observatories that help the astronomers then to observe or set up the instruments and other work in there. Also, of course, teaching and industry, like for example, software or big data, so where development are like the most popular right now. My inspiration was the Canary Island skies. I grew up there. So if you haven't been there, it's great, especially if you go to a mountain. The sky is amazing. You can see millions of stars. It's incredible. So, and that's the reason why there are 2 very important observatories. One in Tenerife, in Finland. This is where this is the Taylor volcano, the highest mountain in Spain. Here where I work as telescope operator, and then I went back for observing as astronomer. And the other big observatory in the Canary Islands is in La Palma, and that's where we have the biggest optical infrared telescope in the world, which is the Gran Telescope de Canarias. And why this happens in the Canaries? Why is that special this place? The thing is that the Canaries are basically some islands in the middle of the ocean, and the currents, the wind currents that come to the islands, they come through the ocean. So it's like very clean and very clean and very rare currents of wind and of water clouds, and this clean winds make that we can predict very well the atmosphere, because our problem is that everything that is between our telescope and a star or a galaxy makes noise and makes distortion the image that we have. So the more atmosphere that we have, the worse, and the better that we can predict how this atmosphere is behaved is the better for us. And also the higher air, because we have this atmosphere in below us. So these clean currents that come from the ocean to the Canaries usually form what it is called the clouds sea. That is all that you can see here. All these are clouds that form kind of a big sea around 1,000 meters above the sea level, and the observatories are around 2,000 meters, about 2,300 meters above the sea level. So this covers the light from the cities as well, so making the sky even better. Anyway, it's beautiful, but it is what matters. So working as an astrophysicist, I work, I'm a researcher with a postdoctoral position at the University of Munoz-Ferrada. And I study the galaxies, in particular how they were formed and how they evolve. In my daily life, what I actually do is code. Is programming. The 50% of my time is sitting at my desk coding and programming stuff, programs for what I need. But no one has done before, so you always have to do your own stuff. Yeah, so that's the expert for us. These 2 last years, basically home working, luckily I started to go back to university, so we can actually have a coffee with someone. And then we have the fun part that is for me, that it is to go to meetings, to present talks and posters in conference, with workshops, and also like to observatory and take some nice pictures for your science. Then you will have to analyze the months in your office. We also do belong to worldwide collaboration that usually have different kind of workshops, or that develop new instruments to install in different telescopes. This sets many bounding with different institutions and the different universities in the world. And of course, outreach, which is one of the things that I enjoy the most. But we also do paperwork and job applications, which is the big part. So, as I said, I work with galaxies. I try to find out how the galaxies were formed and how they evolve. A galaxy is basically a bunch of gas and dust and millions of stars, or billions of stars all together, that are a group without due to the gravitational potential that all this bunch of mass form. So basically, that's the basic idea, but then the life is harder, and they have many different shapes and many different types. So it's very different to have like one prediction of how these galaxies will form and how they evolve, because as you can see, they end up with many different types of galaxies. However, if you go deeper, as we call it in astronomy, which means actually to observe during more and more time in telescopes and to have a much more careful data treatment of the images, we start getting what it is called as the isophagous universe. This is basically the faintest regions and the faintest structures in the universe that are now located around galaxies. So, for example, when we get here to these faintest layers, you start to see all these streams, all these tails around galaxies that comes in many different shapes and sizes and position that the orientation of everything. Which is very related to the interactions between galaxies, because galaxies, when they have different kind of kinematic and cinematic. So two galaxies come close together, they start having an interaction, and some stars from a galaxy, some stars from the two galaxies start to form this kind of tails of different shapes and weird shapes that we see them in our images. And it's important to go deeper. Well, deeper, and I mean, to see these faintest structures. This is an image of the galaxy, actually, that I have in the bottom at the time, is NEC 4565. When we observe deeper with much more time at the telescope, but also a very smart observation strategy, that we call it in the way, is basically to do a different pattern for observation, and also a very careful data treatment to remove all this distortion I told you before, and any kind of light that we might have in the camera, in the electronic, in everything. We have this. So I will do this again. From this is a usual image from a regular image, the ones I would like just to see on the internet, for example. You can get something like this. So it is always like we are missing like half of the science. We can see now much more stuff around. We have a huge area around the galaxy, but it is this very faint structure around. We also are able to see the vertical structure of the disk. Basically what I was what my PhD was focused on, and the structure on what is going on the vertical structure of this. The galaxy is an electron galaxy, which means that we are seeing it from a side. We are not seeing it face on, like we are not seeing this spiral arms, but from a side. So we can, when we see the galaxies from this orientation, from this point of view, we are able to see the vertical structure of the disk and how it starts to move over time. And then another thing that I do, actually, that I did here at the university, and I will finish with this, is the intravertical light with groups of galaxies. As I told you before, the galaxies actually are not alone, and the galaxies are isolated galaxies, but in general, they are close to other galaxies forming groups of dozens of galaxies. There are a few galaxies, and these groups then form larger clusters of galaxies. I'm interested in groups of galaxies, and in particular on the infrared light, that it is a very faint light that we find between these galaxies. But the cool part is that this light is not bound to any of the galaxies in the group. It's independent, and it is actually bound to the potential, to the gravity or the gravitational potential of the whole group as a unique system. And these stars are stars that were kicked off from the galaxies, where they were formed due to this interaction that I'm talking about. So by studying this light, we can have an idea, like a fossil record of all the interactions that has undergone within the system, within the group of galaxies. And this is actually one of my science images, just not only the very beautiful one, but this is more like a image in one band, which is what we usually do. Only take images of one color. So you have an idea on how it looks like and how this is my infrared light that I'm studying right now. So that's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cristina. You can sit again in your seat. And we are going to do the questions at the end. So you want to ask questions, actually, you do that at the end. In that way, you will have the opportunity of asking the kind of similar question to all the different people in the panel, or to a couple of them. Okay, let's go for a second talk that is going to be given by Bernardo. I don't have your full things here, but put your name. So for Bernardo García Pola, thank you very much. So he's also a postdoc at UNSW, and he's going to be talking about madness at first sight. So what's yours? Thank you. Thank you, Abraham. Thank you very much for inviting me. I live in Summerhill. This is the neighborhood where I live. It's in the west of Sydney. It's not very big. It's about like a bit more than 7,000 people. And there's not much stuff to do, but there's some things. There's actually a couple of Italian restaurants because I love Italian food, so that's important to me. And where these two restaurants are located in Summerhill? Well, obviously they're like spread out over the neighborhood to be able to supply anybody that wants to eat Italian food. Also, I'm an economist, I study economics, and obviously it doesn't make sense because you don't want to compete with the other restaurant, and you want to be able to supply anybody that wants Italian food, right? Except that is not the case at all. These are the two restaurants. One of Galucci is not that very close. It's basically the shoulder. Like you walk by, you don't know which pizza you're smelling. You're like, they can be closer together, right? And this doesn't make any sense. Or does it? So I research economics, and in particular game theory. So my goal today is just give you a really brief sense of what it is, why it's important, and why it's so interesting, at least for me, why I like it so much. So game theory is the study about decisions, but not any kind of decisions, but strategic decision making. What is this? This is just decisions in which the result that you get it not only depends on what you choose, your decisions, but also on others' decisions, right? So what it has is basically that these rules or this interconnectivity sometimes can be as relevant to decide the results as the decisions of the preference of the people actually making the decisions. And this interconnection can arise some issues or problems that would not be there if it was only for the individual decisions going on and the preference of the people making the decisions. So my goal today is to show you 3 quick examples of some situations in which if you see them, you may think that the people involved is just crazy or stupid or evil or doesn't make any sense. But if you actually pull out the game theory glasses, it's suddenly makes sense, right? And the first example is going to be the residents of my neighborhood. So in order to explain this, I wanted to do another quick example. So imagine a beach that is basically a unidimensional beach, right? Something that's very thin and very long. And those people are uniformly distributed across the beach, right? So imagine that we have an ice cream cart. I want to put it somewhere. Where should we put it? Well, it doesn't really matter because anybody that wants ice cream has to go to us, right? So it doesn't really matter. But what if there is 2 of them? There's 2 different owners, right? There's separate businesses. So let's think, for example, about this location. Well, this is a good example. So this left ice cream cart has all the left wing and the right one has all the right wing. But will the owners be happy with these locations? And probably not. Why not? It's because if, for example, the left one will be to the center, it remains all the left wing, but actually some people on the right will get closer to that. And if the ice cream is the same, which is a thing that we're like taking for granted, now actually we get more customers that will have to go to them, right? But one can think the same and say, hey, if I move a little bit to the center, I can actually take them back, right? So if you keep these incentives at the limit, you'll find that the best thing to do is actually to be the closest to the other one, but not passing to the other side because then you lose everything that you have on your back, right? So that's it. That's it, right? That's basically an example. It's called Hardin's law, or also it's called like the law of minimal differentiation. And it not only works for location, it can work for product differentiation. For example, in my friends, some things that are really similar. Or even political parties. We have like a system with like 2 main political parties. There's one main dimension that's important, maybe left and right. You may see that some of them may be like close to each other, right? They're fairly close to each other. Why is important is because if we end up in a situation like the one on top, actually the areas that people have to walk for an ice cream is actually much larger than, for example, if you put them in a different way, right? So it's something that we'll call like a market failure, or something that's undesirable, and something maybe that we'll have to regulate or think about or see what we do about it, right? So there's the first example. The second example I want to show you is actually a classic, so I don't know if some of you may know it. It's called the Prisoner's Dilemma. It's basically about the story of 2 people that rob a bank. But they get caught by the police and they get put in 2 individual cells, incommunicated, right? They can't speak to each other at all. So the police give them 2 possible options. One is to confess, and the other one is not doing it, right? They can just shut up. The number of time that they will spend in jail is going to depend on not only what they do, but what the other robber does. In the following way, okay, in this way. So if both confess, they both get 1 year in jail. If both not confess, they only get 6 months because there's not that much proof, right? But if one of them confesses, but the other one doesn't, the one that confessed actually for collaboration gets 3, and the other one gets all the loans. So there's actually 5 years in jail, right? So you can actually think about it in the situations, and it's pretty fun. But let me tell you that no matter what you do, no matter what you does, the best for you is always to confess. Because if the other one confesses, you're best if you confess. And the other one doesn't confess, you're better off if you confess as well. So at the end, you might end with that situation. What is the problem of the madness of this is that if you take a quick look, you're actually taking a decision that make them worse off if they will just take the other one. They could be 6 months in jail, but they're getting 1, right? again, they're stupid now. It's like we understand now how the structural incentives work. And there's a lot of real examples of resource dilemmas. Probably one of the most important ones is climate change. So we're thinking about countries making emissions. Everyone will be better if nobody makes as much emissions. However, individually, given that you are a small part and that your productivity country is much better if you actually pollute more, you have like individual incentives to do it no matter what the other does. And that is why this is one of the reasons for which it's such a complex problem and such a hard problem to solve as well. So let me move to the next sample, and for that's going to need your help. So you have here a jar of coins. I hope most of you are familiar with US. If not, I apologize, but you can still take a guess, because I'm going to ask you, please think on your mind, how much money do you think there is in this jar, right? I'm going to give you like 20 seconds. You can play in the stream as well, how you want. Think about it and get a number in your mind. Okay, these moments, just keep the number in your head, okay? So now what I want to do is to raise your hand if you think that is larger than €5. Okay, keep your hand up, please, keep it up. Keep it up if you think that is larger than €40. 40. Yeah, 40. Keep it up if you think that is higher than €60. Keep it up if you think that is higher than €65. Okay, keep it up if you think that is higher than 100. Okay, you can lower it down. So the real amount I'm going to tell you is 63.38. So we actually, most of them overestimated the amount in this case, almost all people that is here. Why are we doing this? Because I'm going to tell you about one thing that I need you to do this first, right? So normally when I do this, the average of people guesses is more or less right. So more or less around 60 something. But there's some people that actually underestimates, not many of you, so you're still optimistic. But there's other people that also overestimate, like is the case of most people in this room, right? So with that in mind, I'll be back to that. But I'm going to tell you about the Venus curse, which is the magnet situation, right? And this was first noted by two engineers in the 70s that realized that the companies that were exploring of the outer continental shelf in the US, we're actually getting losses year after year, or very few profits, right? And they're wondering why. So this expedition was auction, actually, right? And this auction had three characteristics. One, it was a first place auctions, which is basically the one in which you write your bid in a sealed envelope and you submit it, and then you open all of them, and the one that is higher, that's the one that get the oil, right? There is. Also, it has a common value, that the value of the oil is the same for everybody, because it's not like, I don't know, an artistic piece that can be different for everybody. No, the oil is the oil that it is. And also have the characteristic of uncertainty, because you're not sure how much oil it is, how easy it is to access, etc., right? And if you think about it, these characteristics are the same as YAR in some sense. So if, for example, you do an action of a YAR before, now that you know, and maybe you do some bits, but actually most of you, I mean, you did that less than what you think it was inside the YAR, but probably some of you actually did more than the actual value of the YAR. So I could be like auctioning jars everywhere and getting money. There will be people buying jars, losing money, which doesn't make any sense, right? But yeah, what's going on here is basically that who's gonna get the winning bid? Who's gonna win the auction? Okay, so in this uncertainty, the ones who are gonna get it is actually the one that are overestimating more the value. The ones that are wrong in that side, meaning that the ones that get it is precisely the people or the companies that are wrong about it in that sense, and that's why we can see that this effect. Why is this important? Well, this also has a different effect, which is that people or companies might actually take this into account and underbid for that because they know about this effect, right? And if we are government, maybe listen all any kind of things, we want to get as much possible from the companies, or we're going to get as much as possible, right? So what we do, for example, is some better actions like second-tier actions that actually avoid this problem because you have to actually build your value, things like that. I don't have time, sadly. But yeah, there's some cool solutions about this. So that was just the example. So what I basically do in my research is what I can feel. So I may take a look about some of the situations in which interaction can create interesting effects, right, or real effects, and try to understand them. Also, behavioral economics, which means that how do people behave in that situation, because they need to behave still, they need to do things, right? There's a lot of psychology in this. So we study how people behave in those situations. And experimental economics, which is just basically the method throughout doing out of the which is basically test these kind of things with real people, with real incentives. We can put them in there, but we give them money, right? To test the situations or the solutions that we may have, etc. That's about it. I hope I'm not very hard. I'll try to cross a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bernardo, for that wonderful talk. And now I want to invite Professor Javier Álvarez-Mon, who is a professor at Macquarie University, also SRAP. He's going to be talking about the Elam civilization and the origins of the Persian Empire. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for my name, as Angel mentioned, I'm Javier Álvarez-Mon. And I would like to thank the Cervantes Institute and SRAP, of course, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to be amongst you. I would like to introduce you to perhaps a civilization and a culture that I am making the assumption most of you are not familiar with. So what I prepare for you is to give you a very just a short, brief introduction to the Elamite civilization. I will not tell you much about myself. You can find that information online if you want to know how I came to do what I do, which I don't know yet. I took myself. It's a complete mystery to me. But one of the things that I do is I happen to be one of the leading specialists in the Elamite civilization. I teach Near Eastern archaeology and art, which is my training. That's what I got my degrees in art history and Near Eastern archaeology. From the Cordillera in Paris and from the University of Berkeley at California. And what I do is, I basically have spent the last, most of my career as an academic working in Iran and in museums in Europe, trying to collect the cultural heritage of the Elamite civilization. I will tell you in a moment why and how that happened. But basically what I would like to do is to introduce you to the Elamites and then to give you a sample of what am I doing now at the present, what is my research, where is my research leading, and what I intend to accomplish with my research. So what is Elam special and what makes this, what can we learn from this Elamite civilization? Well, there's two reasons why these Elamites really intrigued me, and I got into this very marginal field, or a very marginal field for most people. One is the geography, the other is the longevity. And I'll give you an example why, and then I will tell you about the legacy of Elam. And that has to do with the genesis of the Persian Empire, which I assume you all are familiar with the Persians. So now, one thing I should say is that this discipline of Elamite studies, now Elam is in present-day Iran. So that already rings a few bells for you. Iran is a country that, for political reasons, the field of archaeology used to be a gold mine of archaeology, the laboratory for archaeologists and anthropologists. They were studying in Iran. They went to Iran. And until 1979, when the Iranian Revolution took place, and in a matter of a couple of weeks, everything
collapsed and all the foreigners working in Iran had to leave the country. Therefore, it has been the scenario of study that disappear from one day to the next. There are very few specialists who work in Iran and who actually do Elamite studies. You are probably looking at 1 out of 5 in the world today. And it's archaeology is a discipline that is intertwined with politics since day one. You cannot separate. And if you work in the Middle East, you have to be a diplomat first. So that's something that I do. Now, in terms of the geography, why the Elamites are interesting? Why do I think that they deserve to be taken into account in terms of the ancient societies? Well, in terms of the geography, you are familiar with this part of the world, so I'm not going to give you really much of introduction about it. But the Elamites are today in southwest Iran. And what you are looking at is not so much the plains or the alluvial plains where the Sumerians or the Akkadians or the Babylonians are, which is the flat lands of the alluvial plains between the Tigris and the Euphrates. We are looking next door, the Elamites. The Elamites had a rural culture. They were in the lowlands. So this is the alluvial plains next to Mesopotamia, and then they were in the highlands. So there is this dual culture between the highlands and the lowlands, and makes Iran really intriguing and really fascinating in terms of the social dynamics and the politics. So why are they so fascinating? Why? Because they have 2 capitals. Because also in the 2 capitals, one capital is Macquarie. It's a city of Susa that some of you may have heard, maybe familiar with through the Bible, through many different reasons why Susa, you may know about Susa. This land was next to Persepolis. That you are familiar with Persepolis, one of the capitals of the Persian Empire. And in between, that was Elam. That was the ancient kingdom, sometimes empire. What makes them really interesting is the longevity. They were around from about 4,200 BC all the way to 525 BC. So for more than 4,000 years, this empire, this kingdom, this society continued. They didn't collapse, they just transformed themselves. So this is what has intrigued me throughout my studies, throughout my career, is what makes these people, this society, unique, but also lasting, because they reinvent themselves, and that's very interesting in terms of societies, collapse of societies, and all of those that is so prevalent these days. So what I have been doing for the last 20 years is working in I am trained as an archaeologist, but I'm a very different type of archaeologist. I don't shovel up dirt. I work in museums, so I dig up museums and museum collections that have never been studied and have been left behind. And that's in particular the case with Iran, because in 1979, when the revolution started, everything collapsed, and there has been large amounts of material that has never been studied or shown or exhibited. So today I will introduce you to objects that you probably have never seen before, and the latest archaeological discoveries that took place in the last 15 years or so. So just very briefly, the city of Susa, you are familiar with, some of you may not be familiar with. What you're looking at is what we call a pearl. A pearl is a mountain, and it's artificial. The top is 28 meters high, and this city is one of the longest inhabited cities in human history in the record. People came here, migrated here in around 4,200, and the city was abandoned in 1200 AD. So for more than 5,000 years, people live here on top of each other. So that's what, everything is artificial here. So that's what, this is like a gold mine for archaeologists. And red is the castle built by the French, because the French excavated here. In yellow is the palace of Darius the Great, because this was the capital of the Persian Empire, one of the capitals of the Persian Empire. The French worked here, they excavated here, hence most of the artifacts that were excavated here, if you can guess where they are. They are the Louvre, of course, and the Louvre Museum. And this is the golden age of excavations, because in the Middle East, this is associated with Western enterprises of colonialism, economic and cultural supremacy. So there's lots to say about what happened during these excavations in the 19th century and in the 20th century. Now, in terms of the latest, I guess, how the research is going, and my particular interest has been moving in two directions. So this book I published in 2011, which pertains to this discovery of, by chance, this was a tomb that was discovered by chance in southwest Iran, and it's an elite tomb burial with a body inside a coffin, and lots of very interesting and unique goods like this so-called ring of Arjan ring. You can find lots of information online. It is something that is of interest to you. What makes this burial interesting, if you are paying to the dates here, is that it's dated to around 600, 550 BC. And I'll tell you why that's important, because much of my research has been dealing with recent discoveries. So I go to Iran and work in collaboration with my Iranian colleagues in the museums, etc. And then going into the highlands, as I mentioned before, one aspect of the culture takes place in the highlands, in the mountains. So one of my books pertains to basically the study and the publication of these amazing monumental reliefs that you find in the highlands, in this mountain valley in the highlands, with a display of lots of amazing reliefs. No one had studied them before, so I spent part of my time in the highlands working there and studying them, and hence the book. Now you can find information, so you can see that cave over there. There's a cave, and on the side of the cave, there's actually a waterfall that, when it rains, that comes from the top down, and there is 4 reliefs that you can see there on the sides of the cave. So talking about the connection of the natural landscape and the cave, hence the waterfall, and art and artistic displays. Very close relationship, especially in the highlands. So this is, you can know, if you are interested in this, I did it with a colleague, a Google Arts Culture. You can go to Google Arts and Culture and see the display and the introduction to some of these actually reliefs there with a video, and so that's also something that is all public domain. Now, also in 2007, another discovery that happened by chance, and this was a burial with 2 skeletal remains buried in 2 what we call bronze bathtub sarcophagus, and there were 2 ladies, we call them the princesses, very rich and wealthy display of materials. Now, this is dated to 625 and 525 BC. Why is that important? Let's see, why is that important? Well, it's important, I'll tell you in a moment, but before I do so, I published this book in 2020, The Art of Elam, and this is almost the magnus opus of my career, because this is the result of 17 years of research in working in museums in Iran and in Europe. And what I did here is to articulate the narrative of the visual culture of the Elamites. What I do is I trace it from the beginning of the villages, and I trace all the development of the social complexity from the first villages to the first states, from the first kingdoms, from the first empire. So you can almost see how art almost speaks out in terms of the complexity of society. That was 2020. But in terms of those 2 burials, and that's now where my research is leading, and now presently I am working on this project, hopefully coming up with a book soon. Why is this important? Because as you probably are aware, the Persian Empire appears around 550 BC. Right? And then it collapsed when the Greeks, Alexander the Great, come in 330, and they destroy the Persian, they take over the Persian Empire. And the Persian Empire may not really be of much interest to most people, but it's actually a very important reason why the Persians and the Persian Empire also has influenced much of what that notion of what the West is about, and the identity of the West, because much of the Western identity has been articulated in terms of opposition to the East.
And that articulation that began with the Greeks, with Greek and classical writings, especially with Herodotus. Okay, so the East versus West narrative that is so, in terms sometimes get present in politics and in some, it goes way back, to the Greeks, to the classical world. So that's something that has interested me quite, and something that I address in my studies. And we look at who the Persians were, those three models. There's the traditional model that goes back to the Greeks, and it's the classical model that goes back to 500 BC, and Herodotus talking about the Persians. And he says that the Persians were people without, they were pastoral nomads, were people who possessed none of the luxuries or the lives of life. They were characterized as people who were basically, they invaded the classical world, the ancient civilizations, and they took over, and they had no culture of their own. Then the revisionist model that developed in the 1980s, these are people who were actually sick of the classical model, and they say, we have to look at the realist evidence, And the latest model is the model that I am with a bunch of a group of colleagues, a handful of colleagues, which developed in the last 25 years. And we are saying, no, that's not the case. The Persian Empire actually emerged out of the Elamites. The Elamites, the Elamite civilization, gave birth to the Persian Empire. And actually, so I said to you, why is that important? Because basically what we are dealing with is with a narrative that exists of Persia in the mind of the West. And the mind of the West, which has to do basically with the cultural heritage of the identity of the West, how the West became the West. And that narrative has been articulated in opposition to the Persians that were had no culture of their own, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to do with my research now is to re-articulate a narrative that goes against the classical accounts and that goes tries to locate Persian identity, Persian culture, Persian the genesis from a localized point of view. So in other words, Persian invention or the invention of the Persian Empire was a truly local phenomenon. And I think I'll stop there. Oh, yeah, if you want to know a bit more about a few books there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier. Wonderful. Many new things, at least for me. Eager to learn much more. Okay, well, the next talk is going to be an online talk, and that will be given by Dr. Ricardo Javier Domínguez Llosa, who is the Chief Technical Advisor, Climate Portfolio, FAO-Vanuatu, and also member of SRAP. So perhaps if you can provide, not the one, if you can give access to Ricardo, he should be able to share the screen. Are you there, Ricardo?
Yes, I'm here, and we tried before, but no. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me well?
Yep, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yeah, but can you hear me or not? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or everywhere. And thank you so much for this opportunity to SRAP and also for Instituto Cervantes for give us this opportunity to share with you our evidence-based studies. I want to start with maybe you are not aware where Vanuatu is. I want to share with you to more or less, we are here in this small, it's a small island state, development state, is 83 island, about 300,000 inhabitants. Of this 83 island, only 75 are inhabited. It's only to show you as a geographical overview where we are. Our presentation is not a presentation only prepared by me, it's prepared by the team that we are working together in Vanuatu. For me, it's very important to to express also our concern. Vanuatu is the most at risk hazard, the number one in all over the world. We suffer every year earthquakes, cyclones. No, we have had the affecting of La Nina, and suddenly everything was go. I not turning 4 years in Vanuatu when we arrived in August 2019. Everything was okay. I will handle one GEF project. Is the Global Environmental Facility. Is a project that is under one umbrella for all the Pacific countries. And this reach to reef. And I want to show you some of the pictures also at this, that they seeing a paradise for all of you that you live in other countries, or also from our perspective from Spain or from Australia or New Zealand. The turquoise water color, also that's a space that is the southern island of Vanuatu, is an atrium. I want to also to say thank you. I cannot translate this paisanaje, landscape is easy, but in Spanish we use this paisanaje, one landscape without anyone living there, or animals or person, human being, is nothing. It's an empty bottle. That's the people that we are working from the ground. We are managing a team of 15 Vanuatus. They are, really, they say it's one of the happiest country in the world, and we are working in several places when they still having this customary knowledge, customary dress, and they still living using to prepare his dress, use palm or rattan and other natural materials. Also, we work very close with the chief, traditional chief. They are very respectful with the customary knowledge, and we, every time that we work, we start any activity in any of the project area, we need to have the previous prior informal consent for the chief assembly together with the province government. Everything was very, very well till 2020. That's in our memory. Is a very, very hard year. We start with the pandemic, COVID-19, but suddenly also disappeared this TC Harold, category 5 with winds around 400 kilometers per hour, and they crashed from the northwest to the southeast. They pass away. You can have some of the pictures that we took in the project site. We are working in 5 islands. One of that is South Pentecost, and it was completely destroyed, as you can see in the images. Maybe if you was in the area, you will see this all over the world, and also with. It's for me, I was working before in Caribe. I saw the hurricanes, but that's really completely different, a cyclone that a hurricane. And that came together with the lockdown. In the beginning of, also the COVID arrived to Vanuatu very late. Really, we are in lockdown during 2 years when we opened the border, but we have the maximum of 11,200 cases. No more data from the second week of June. From 1st July, the borders open, and we have only 14 people that pass away due COVID circumstances. That we do from the project is we start, what we find is data missing, no data, no statistical data. Also in the island that we are working, except Fate, and maybe a small Intana, is no electricity, no good internet connection, no roads. You need to walk, or you need to go by boat from one place to other place, or maybe it's only one track, or the track is a 4-4 for the whole island. Then we start using Kobo toolbox, the open forest. That is open source. Open forest is developed by FAO. You also have data from the forest situation, and not only for the forest situation, also you have information about agriculture. For FAO, agriculture means agriculture, livestock, fisheries, to avoid any other confusion. We start with this that we do with the project, with the procedure. We change the objectives of the project, the outputs and the outcomes, and we create a livelihood recovery program for South Pentecost, and we start developing agroforestry nurseries using the materials, the coconut trees they was fallen by the cyclone. We train farm-field school program. It's an approach created by FAO. It is working all over the world. We have now working about 30 farm-field school. That came the knowledge came from the ground. It's not from the top. They came from the ground with the knowledge, the expertise, the resilience from the harvester, from the farmers. Also, there was very good gender inclusion. The women's they take the agroforestry nurseries from the beginning. Also, you can see Vanuatu have a plastic ban, and normally they use cartoons, or you can see how they use also for replication of the planting from the nurseries. They use this bamboo trunks. That is okay. The interest they show by the community, by the beneficiary, that is the main objective of FAO and United Nations agencies. Also, we start establishing this micro irrigation system, very cheap, and any other farmer can prepare, can do, and they have his small backyard garden. At the same time, we have a very active and volcanic activity. The other project site is Tana. That is the Jasur volcano, is one of the active volcanoes, 6 active volcanoes in Vanuatu. One is you can visit him, and we start doing capacity building with the area administrator, training in Kobo toolbox. We provide the tablet, we provide the training, we provide also a centralized system to collect the whole information and to provide with the national statistics system. That is some picture that you can take if you visit the volcano. You can visit the situation is not into mass risk, but all this ash is converted in acid rain. Okay, now we start. I go to move very fast to the study. We try to have as much information from from the beginning the lockdown. We discovered we are alone. From when TC-PAN in 2015 came, a lot of help from Australia, New Zealand, France, Europe, China, Japan. All the countries came to Vanuatu. There was also really a small disaster, we'll see, because it was a good coordination for the distribution of the help and support. They were starting is to see this in the methodology. We started to see the impact of COVID and climate change intervention, and second, the impact of COVID-19 on communities and households. And answer one that is very linked with the WHO is the analysis of food production and the dietary diversity. We work, the total household was 930, but we have the sample in 529, and we have also 16 different groups. It's very long, but if you can, I will share with you the presentation, also the data, and with the questionnaire that we pass, we start from the beginning that it was done between 2020 22nd June. I also we are analyzing the last questionnaire that we pass normally every 3 months. We are in lockdown, but we can travel between islands. Only in the 3 months from February till June of the year, we cannot travel between islands due to this spread of COVID. You see all this green. Green means the increase of the natural overuse of natural resource. That means it's a damage for the biodiversity. Also, it's linked with the Vanuatu depend of tourism about 45% of his PIB, GPD, sorry. And that means also the people that cannot afford, cannot purchase a bottle of gas, they cannot pay electricity. And also in this remote island, also we see that the people from Port Vila, the capital, Antana, Luganville, the three main towns, they move back to the island. That means they increase the overuse of the natural resource. And also you see in red is the village store, they completely nothing, you can find nothing in the shop, and the people they back again to the backyard garden. Also using open forest here, that is we have all the island, is the loss tree cover loss from 2020 and that is including 21. Also only to see you the loss of the vegetation, the forest cover. That is this magenta, okay, we say that the color, this red color is where the cyclone goes through here, and they lost. I will tell you, we find on the top of the mountain, we find coral fish. We are talking about 350 meters over sea level. We find some fish from the coral reef. They will spread to the top of the mountain. Also here you can see that it is South Pentecost, that is a biome, is a national, is a conservancy area. And you see also how we are going in deep, and after we go, every pixel is 501.5 hectare. Okay. Sorry, the results, you see also the picture that we're taking in South Pentecost, that is the Nangol, that is the previous of the Banji, that was invented by that in South Pentecost in Vanuatu. The impact mitigation was more or less okay, but mostly negative, because really the communities experience the loss of job markets and reduce the purchasing power. They don't have money to purchase nothing. And also this tropical cyclone affect more island, not only Vanuatu. Sorry, why don't move? Okay. I don't want to do, but you know, the observed impacts and intervention for the in the communities, in the immediate impacts. I highlight in blue, reduce short-term and long-term production, decrease in production, really the country loss. Also, that is the pictures as from the local market, with some yam, orange, kumala, a different kind of banana. Because of the time, okay, less market, the people don't have space to sell. Also lockdown, avoid also the communication between island, because the people, the chiefs, traditional chief, they also put his own lockdown over the general or national lockdown. That is we do also this dietary diversity score. That is very what's important to see how the communities they have his daily diet. Also we the women of reproductive age, that is very important for the WHO and for us and for the country. In blue you have the normally that is between 0 and 10. You can see that in 2019 in the different communities that we have studied and collected data, you see, for example, Efate, we have 5.2. But in 2022, we are decreasing to 4.6, 4.1. That means also it's a high risk for the women in reproductive age, because they lost his possibilities. Also, there was a study that we do what did you eat for breakfast. There was a NGO. They work with us, and you can see also the diet, what they eat for breakfast. Also, how they link it with the other DDS, how they also the increase of the rice when TC Harold any cyclone came, the government distribute rice, and that is changing also the local or the customary diet. That the discussion that we have is the important for us is to see how the strength of traditional system and connectivity of inland communities it was reinforced. Also, they increase the production, but decrease the dietary diversity. We try to improve the diversity of the diet. We include carrots, eggplants, zucchini, other plants, not only taro. His basic is for taro, for cucumber. Taro and tubers. The implication for the DG is what also we are studying a very important city. It's very difficult to a small island development state to accomplish with the SDGs. We discover all those knowledge gaps, but they are helping us to prepare to program better action in the future. As conclusions, okay, we're effective for 2 years, but at the moment that they opened the borders, they came Omicron only, but it was the people in panic. Also here, I want to mention the Australian and New Zealand government have a memorandum of understanding, and they have workers for seasonal workers, and that is really a loss of power in the country, because the young people they came to New Zealand or Australia to work around 300 per month during 2 years. You can estimate. Any question? For me, all time the smile in all time, that is the team, a part of the team that we are working together. All time that picture as after the questionnaire after TC Harold event. Thank you so much. Maybe I pass a little bit my time. Thank you so much.
Institute for Medical Research and SRAP, who's going to talk about nuclear medicine and surgery.
Well, thanks for the invitation, and we're going to take you on a journey into the human body. Okay. Recently, we lost Olivia Newton-John to breast cancer at the age of 74 years. And basically, Olivia Newton-John and our group, going back to the 1996, because she was diagnosed earlier than that, has an interaction on the problem that she developed at that time. Our project begins sometime in 94. And it was the development of a technique and equipment to be able to find sentinel nodes in the body. Now, nobody knows what is sentinel node. Nobody knows what is nuclear medicine and surgery link to a piece of equipment or an isotope. So the first unit was a lab unit, the second unit was a research unit, and the third unit was a clinical trial unit. And that happened between 97 and 98. And in 2000, we had about 50 units running in Australia and Italy as well. So that was the first part of our work. I still haven't told you what we're doing. Okay, so that actually is the detection and testing of how we are going to find a sentinel node in the body. I think you got the wrong paper. You copy the old one. This is the old one, actually, or the large one. Okay, but going back to, if you can find it. Okay. Start again. No, there's another one. One which is got, it was sent this afternoon. Okay, we're going to go to the human body. The human body is composed of two lymphatic systems, which is basically the collecting garbage system of your body. And if you were going back to the Greeks or the Latins, says very clearly, and the philosophy is corpus sano mente sana, which means happy body, happy mind. And that's simply because the more exercise you do, the more rubbish is depleted by your body. It's cleaning your mind, cleaning your system. So we got two lymphatic systems. One is the internal lymphatic system and one is the external lymphatic system. Every time we get an infection in the body, we tend to have an inflamed gland, which is a lympha. And a lympha is a sentinel node, which is that takes the first attack of infection in your body. Can be cancer, can be an infection. And that's basically what we got here. We got the complete lymphatic system, the internal and the external. The red one is the external lymphatic system. The internal is the blue one, and that goes into the organs. Moving forward, this is basically what a tract lymphatic system does. Doesn't have a pump like the heart. So we rely purely on exercise to be able to move the lymphs across the body. Okay, so the more you exercise, the better your body is going to function. We have seen people with elephantiasis, which is swallow the legs, which is lymph being trapped. Okay, so that is what is happening if you don't do exercise. I'm not trying to sell you Jenny Craig or anybody like that. Okay, but that's what happened. That is a lymph node, and the lymph node detect and trap all the bacteria and parasites that are coming into your body, and that again can trap cancer cells. Okay, we're moving into again the body. This is the guys then through the history: Massa, Eustachius, Gasparo, Kershaw, Sapé. Sapé probably was the best, which that image is from Kershaw, but he started showing for the first time more than 100 years ago what is happening in the lymphatics. And they used to inject gold, they used to inject mercury, many substances. Today they will be illegal to be used, and they used to use it to identify how the lymphatic system moves in the body. There's this first drawings done, although they were done 100 years ago without any equipment, they're still very precise. Here we start talking about breast cancer. Okay, so we talk about the technique, why we got involved in lymphatics, in sentinel biopsy, etc., etc. So we prepare the different injections to get to the body and to be able to create pressure around the tumor, and the tumor will find his way out with the lymphatics to the axilla, where the cancer cells that have been produced by the tumor might be trapped. Here we have a patient which has been injected with a patent blue to see how the tract lymphatics works in the feet. And that's clearly showing there. Unfortunately, it only lasts a few minutes because the whole part of the body can get contaminated, and therefore we cannot use it. So our job was to develop something where we can utilize it for an hour at least. And this is what we got. We got the Gamma Pro. The Gamma Pro It's based on an injection to the breast, and then we wait 15 to 20 minutes, and we go and chase those connections that there might exist between tumor and sentinel node in surgery. Here we have basically, as a medicine, how we divide the breast. Lower quadrant, right quadrant, left quadrant, upper quadrant, etc., etc. So each part of the breast has got a different drainage of the lymphatic. So if we understand that, we can follow the situation. For argument's sake, over there, we have a tumor and 2 sentinel nodes, and that is been done by the gamma camera. Here again, we got sentinel nodes and tumor, and then we got other ones that they basically begin to formate during the study. To make it easier for surgery and nuclear medicine, we tend to do the little drawing, because that's what you get if you are a surgeon. You will never know what are we talking about. So to help it, that sort of sketch is done for the surgeon, so he can actually see basically what he's getting involved. As you can see, you have to be a magician to be able to understand what's going on in some town. Here we got a gamma camera, and we've got a patient under the gamma camera, and Roger there is actually looking at the screen and trying to identify by pinpointing the radio substance exactly where the sentinel node is. So when he goes to surgery, the patient can be surgically assessed without wasting any more tissue. Here we have a patient with 1 tumor at the top and 3 channels feeding the sentinel nodes. So it's very difficult again to find out. So we have to do all this as part of the research, try to figure out how difficult or simple can be to have a sentinel node found. Here in nuclear medicine, we have 2 sentinel nodes. For the not so good medical scientists, it will not see the node which is pointed by the arrow. If you do a lateral, we can see there is another sentinel node there. So again, all that can be done in nuclear medicine, but in surgery, it's impossible to find all this. So again, here we've got a melanoma in the back, and we have fallow channels of melanoma tracks where the sentinel node is pointed here in the front. Again, we go back to the breast, upper quadrant, sorry, as I said, it's been modified. It's missing here. Okay, that is a melanoma. How can you distinguish that from a pimple? Very difficult. But here, this is going back 25 years ago, 27 years ago, a little bit younger. We've got a patient who's got a melanoma, and we are trying to find out how we are going to remove a melanoma without producing any more damage to his health. Here we have injected the patient, so we're using a gamma probe to find out the area that we did the injection. It shows 29,000 count, but then we look for the node, and it's 2,600. So 10% of the injection has gone directly to the node. Before that day, nobody could actually have found a node the way we did. So it was tremendous, right? So it was actually, the television was there. We had Channel 9, we had Channel 7, the IBC, and we got a letter from Spain at the same time that day. Okay, here we got notes, and we got metastasis. Is anybody confused with the word metastasis? Mean cancer cells in transition, what we have found here. And there and at the end under the circle. So again, after we have removed the section, okay, the patient has cancer in transition, which is what actually have killed Olivia Newton-John. There was no found other originally. Okay, so the lymphobiopsy is to remove and do sampling of the actual patient, and here we're teaching, here we're doing surgery, trying to find the node before the patient is actually opened. Here we have defined now the node position. Here we are doing surgery, showing to other surgeons how to find the node. Normally that is the axilla, which we tend to open and remove. Here we have, again, a sentinel node where the needle is pointing there. That is the sentinel node. Before the technique, this is what they used to do. They used to take the axilla. Today, that's what they do. So it's a big difference. And my job has been for the last 20 years, basically to do training from Australia to the rest of the world. And we give them 5 minutes to view what we need to do in surgery. So there's a student who benefited at that time. This is going back to 27 years ago. Today, this is the new unit that we have created, and it's in Spain, it's in Italy and France and everywhere in the world. Recognition we have received from Australia, and I think I finished.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, and I want to thank all the speakers for the fantastic talks. Questions? Do you have any question here in person or any question online? To any of the speakers that have talked about many different things.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a very general question. I am not a scientist. So all this information in these huge different topics is incredibly important from my point of view to show to the public in general, which is the aim of SRAP in some way, but definitely Instituto Cervantes of Sydney, because we are not only, of course, focused on science, but we are focused on dissemination. I have a general question. What can we do, and how can I more or less think I know what you might say, but how can we help to promote general public to get to know this kind of information? I have never had. I know about breast cancer. I know what it is as in the general public, if I may say it so like that. But I had never known about that in such detail for me to understand. So what can we do? That's my question of from an institutional point of view to get to know this.
The question.
I think it is a question for
Especially, yes.
for all of you,
for all
for
of
the
you.
five speakers, the four that we have here, and Ricardo. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, it's awareness where you're looking, basically, and I think that there will be a lot of public there interested to know more, because people is scared of cancer and they don't want to talk about. They don't want to get near anything which is going to be showing them. And I can tell you, in surgery, things are very relaxed. There is such a control in the procedure that sometimes I look at it and I say, basically, you feel a little bit, how to put it in the way, that you got the power in your hands to create life. It's so overwhelming sometimes, the power during surgery, that you can see things that can be fixed. And people don't go to see the medical people until it's too late, when the cancer has spread through the body, and it's hard to find it. As you can see, what you see in nuclear medicine, which is imaging, you cannot see in surgery. With the gamma product, now we can see in surgery what we see in nuclear medicine by surgery, because we can see the actual tumor in front of you. And at the same time, one of the images, I think, I don't know if you have put it through, but we have put earphones to the nuclear medicine person. And Dr. Uren, it's actually listen to the tumor where it is, because the tumor produces sound. And then that is produced simply because the isotope has reached the tumor, and the concentration of the isotope in the tumor produces a different sound. So for that reason, we can actually know 100%, 110% that that is a tumor. And in surgery, we can remove it.
Okay, thank you for that. Who wants to go next? Talking about how we can make the people, the public, be aware of the kind of research that we are doing.
I think primarily what we are doing right now is essential, because in order for the world to be aware of the research that we do, I think these days is essential that we go digital and we go into the media and take advantage of the opening that provides. And hence, this type of event is crucial. And any other types of means of displaying the work we do, I think if we want to make impact and to make a representation of what we do is really critical. And we all see that through our kids or through the younger generations, how they just, the level of communication of how that is changing. And hence, that's the challenge I face as a scholar, as a, at my level, that most of what I do remains very much. I talk to my colleagues, and there's 20, 30 people who read my papers and things like that, but there's no impact there. So I think it's part of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Cristina?
Well, I think, as he said, to do this kind of events, and also realizing the kind of science you want to share, because, for example, in my case, that it is astronomy, it is possible to do more interactive activities, like, for example, what Angel did with the stargazing, or to put a telescope outside in a park and to bring people there, and that's always very interesting for everyone. And then maybe have some kind of lesson in the classroom with the kids, that kind of things, or young people, which is always very interesting. But yeah, of course, to keep doing these kind of things, and in order to make the people know that this is a place where we usually do these kind of events, not just once. So I think.
Thank you. Bernardo, what do you I would say that science is interesting. So it's more about the communication part. So they were saying this type of things. So it's about curiosity, which is the very nature of science, and how you can with people. I also very important to speak the same language of the people that want to reach the end, because all these things that can get the message and the people who listen together, the better. And sometimes, yes, like adapting it, or just let them know what it is for them, or how can they, interesting for them, also wise for me, which I think I do because I like it so much. So I get excited. So I get like maybe other people too, and what is it, right? So it's just, I would say that. Thank you. Ricardo, do you have anything to add about this? What do you think?
No, thank you. No, I think all the colleagues, they expressed, I think this event, this experience forum is the opportunity to show what we are doing. And it's not a communication really, but as Bernardo said, but I think it's very important, no, to the awareness and to publish, no, and the people can see the YouTube videos from this week. And I think that is an excellent opportunity, and thank you so much for that. Over.
Thank you, Ricardo. As I also am a scientist, I would also like to add some comments of my own thoughts, if you don't mind. Particularly, we are all in very good agreement that it is great, all what we are doing, the science communication, going to the public, blah, blah, whatever. But as a scientist, if that's something that is taken into account, do you know what I mean? So when I'm doing something in academia, are they considering that scientists and researchers are trying to promote the research on science and trying to communicate
to the public and to the people and to educating our societies with the little piece of knowledge of field that they are doing. So that is something else that perhaps we have to also think about. And something else that is also very important, it is not all scientists, not all researchers are able to communicate effectively. You mentioned briefly, you mentioned some way that you have to go to in some way to put in the same level, to use the language, to use the kind of that basic communication. For that, we also need a specialist, people who are able to transfer the knowledge from us, from scientists, into the society. For example, people like specialists here at the Instituto Cervantes that are able to put in context and to help also provide a much broader view of your particular field of view, but with the context, with the society, with the culture, and with the situation that we are now. Sorry for jumping on, but I have to say it. Do you have any more questions or comments here in the audience? I know that we are a bit, it's a 7:15. If not, I can ask questions. I always have questions, so don't be afraid. I'm going to ask a question. Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask a very quick question, but I want quick answers. If you are given the opportunity to go back to Spain or Spain here working in Australia, what do you think it will be best for your career at the moment?
Political.
With the same conditions?
The same conditions we have here?
The same condition we have here? Or yes. What do you think about that? Well, let's go to say in a different way. What do you value of doing the things that the researchers are doing in Australia, of how it is done differently with the way that it is done in Spain, put it in a broader context?
In my case, I'm a very early career, so what I feel here is a bit more security because I'm still in the path of the postdoctoral position, and that's in Spain is very secure. So the first thing will be if I have the same condition here than in Spain, which I don't think so. So what I have here is a bit more security, that I feel like my work is a bit more valuable somehow. And that I have more time for just do my research. Maybe.
And you?
I think that question is asked all the time. And my answer is practical. There's many answers, personal, etc. But my practical answer is all the books I write are in English. I would love to write them in Spanish. If somebody pays me, I will write them in Spanish.
Instituto Cervantes, you know, it is a call for you. Thank you, Javier. Do you want to say anything or just at your view?
Can I say? You have to say the majority of scientists and research people are very introverted. So you don't get to know them, basically. There's a lot of good people there that we don't know about them. And simply that, I think if Cervantes can capitalize and I'm looking for them. I mean, I can give you 2 or 3 that I know. They don't want to be put to the light in front of the camera or ask questions because they haven't dedicated themselves to do that. They are dedicated to do research. Okay. And that's going to be the situation, trying to find them.
Okay. And Ricardo, do you have a last comment or do you want to say anything? Well, in your case, Vanuatu, I think that you are also in a bit a different path that some of us have had here.
Well, no, okay, I agree with all that they say, but I think, our career, you say, is different, no? I working now for previous 20 years in Africa in different countries, different situation. You know, also I'm working in one United Nations organization is different, no? Working in academia, we have very good links with some universities in Australia and New Zealand. Also, we are creating some modules in the Vanuatu University related to climate change and so. But I think some of the scientists that doctors say, they are very introvert, and it's very difficult sometimes to open. And sometimes we cannot have the opportunity in Spain to develop our careers. For example, I'm PhD in top physical geography. Really in Spain, not opportunities. For that, I move out, no, to work and to help and capacity building and to learn. I learn most that I can give to the people in the different countries over.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. You are the only one who are not alive. Well, similar to that, I think I have like probably enough experience. I follow more the greater opportunities here, which is probably why I'm here. So that's why can I say. Okay, well, thank you very much for all your talks again and for answering the questions. Also, thank you, Ricardo, online. And I think that with this, we can just close this event. I'm inviting Coral again to give some final words. Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, Angel. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time. I once again remind you, Instituto Cervantes here is, our job is to promote, to give information on science to the general public, to make it accessible worldwide, even translating into Spanish, which was one of the requests on a previous conference that we had, to make it, as I said, accessible as much. I know it's not a game changer, but we also managed to achieve a letter of apoyo, support, a letter of support of the former Secretary General of the Ministry of Science from Spain, requesting for us to ask what was needed for them to send researchers contacts of those that are hidden in the research, doing what they love and they do best, but sharing a bit of that knowledge and time to offer it to the world. I offer our time, our knowledge, our resources, and our heart to promote science in Spanish, to promote Spanish scientists. And of course, it goes without saying, I would always try to strive to make your situation as best as possible. This is a true honor to have you here. We will continue working in this way, in the best way that we can, online, via Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, face-to-face, and with the wonderful cocktail and catering, wine, and anything that you might need, which always helps enrich your mind and your stomach. You are more than welcome here as many times as you wish. It is an honor for Instituto Cervantes in general and Instituto Cervantes in Sydney in particular to have you here. And thank you so much for sharing this time and your knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gracias a ti.